Darren and Paul, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Good, Molly. Thank you. Glad to be
Yeah,
here.
very good.
Um,
Pleasure to
uh,
be here.
it is great to have you both. I appreciate your willingness to join. I know you guys mentioned this to me probably about 6 months ago. We were having a peer group facilitator huddle, and you were like, you got to get us on the podcast, talk safety. Darren, is this your first time on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, thank you for being here. I know, Paul, you've been here a couple times, so welcome back.
Yeah.
But Darren, really happy to have you. I can tell you it won't be the last. So
Thank you.
welcome, and then to the next ones. All right, Paul and Darren, before we jump in, I know a lot of our listeners here have the pleasure of knowing you both, but for those that do not, can you just please give us kind of a quick background to who you are, where you're from, and then your kind of relationship to both Painters USA and then also with Nolan Consulting Group. Paul, let's start with you.
Sure, Molly. Thank you. Yeah, Paul Cook, owner of Painters USA for 43 years. I retired from day to day in September last year. So a little different, getting used to that. And I'm up in Alaska now, and we bought some property, and I do a little ranching. So I'm having fun with grandkids up here. I work also, though, for Nolan Consulting, and I coach 6 companies and 7 people. So I'm really enjoying that. And I run one of the safety peer groups for Nolan Consulting.
Awesome. Thank you. And part of the Safety Council.
That's right. Yep.
As is Darren. And Darren, please introduce yourself.
So Darren Lotus, I've been with Painters USA for 16 years. Started out in operations as their operations manager, and then kind of moved through into the safety role with that. And then Paul said, I sit on one of the safety groups. I lead the originals and then am also part of the Summit Safety Council.
That's awesome. We really are grateful to have both of you involved, with Nolan Consulting Group, but also being a big part of kind of pushing the topic of safety forward, in the work that, Painters USA does and all of our clients. Really, in any business, there are safety factors and safety lessons and things to be kept in mind, but especially in the work of the businesses that we work with in the trades industry, safety should be top of mind always. And so today we'll talk a little bit about that, as well as kind of a little bit of a rollout of our level 2 certification of the certification program. But first, I think it's really important to start at, the why. Paul and Darren, you both have seen situations happen in your own experiences. You've seen things happen to other, folks within companies. We always see safety as not being a focus until it's too late. So we really want to change that mindset. Paul, there was obviously a specific moment for you that transformed safety from or made it more of a business requirement and a personal mission for you. Can you just give a little bit of a highlight of that story that really kind of changed your trajectory?
Yeah, I will. And then some of you have heard this before, but in 2011, we had an accident. Now, before then, we had our safety documented. We had our safety manual, all the things we needed to get done, check boxes. We haven't even won a safety award. But the problem was that safety program was sitting up in a shelf, right? And it wasn't lit alive in the field as a safety culture. So we had a gentleman fall. He was on a step ladder 4 or 5 feet up, and there was plastic on the ground. He did not see that the step ladder, the back legs were on a grate. So the back leg slipped into the grate, and he fell backwards and hit his head on the ground, had a lot of hemorrhaging. I don't believe was wearing a hard hat. And to this day, he's in a home. He just can't function like he used to function. And that just very sad. It still eats away at me, but talk about a wake-up call and understanding how important it is to make safety come alive in the field.
Was there an immediate shift within the Painters USA organization after that accident?
There was. Yeah, we brought on a third party consulting. A lot of that came from our insurance brokers, and we had some third party audits happening. We just got on it right away. It grew from there, and Darren's been a real big part of that.
Yeah, Darren, I look at you. I mean, you've made safety basically a big part of your career. What inspired you to go down this line of work?
So it kind of organically happened. I mean, the accident was the biggest thing that the company, we wanted to shift. We wanted to make sure it didn't happen again. And I was the operations manager, and I kind of took on the operations / safety role. But then I really got into it. I liked it. So my working genius is a WG, wonder and galvanizing.
Okay.
So I'm kind of that philosophical motivator. And that really trended right into being able to inspire and motivate and mentor and coach and really get people to buy into it. And, first it always starts with compliance. So I took every OSHA class I could, right? And followed the rules. But when that shift happens, it's more than rules. It's about buy-in, just like in, any business production, whatever it is probably when it changed for me. And it was weird because the moment that aha moment was, I've always been kind of adrenaline junkie. Like I was
Okay.
airborne in the military and I did rodeo for years. And, if it was kind of dumb, I did it. And I posted on Facebook when I got the official title, when I went safety full time. And one of my old Army buddies said, I was kind of like, haha, look who's the safety guy now. One of my own old Army buddies was, and he goes, if you think about it, you always have been. So at 18, I went in the military, but I was a combat medic, a 68 whiskey. So with infantry battalions and, different units, and he's like, your job was health and safety in a different form. So I've really my entire adult life kind of did it, just didn't realize it, and kind of rolled out from there. And then as the business grew more, we kind of expanded along, and I just took more passion and everything with it. So
it's so interesting that just kind of organically, when you think about the past and now where you are now, there was always a safety component. You just maybe didn't realize it until your friend said something. I mean, that's
right.
kind of wild. That
Yeah,
really is
and
wild.
it was. And then it really, the first time it came full circle for me was, Paul probably remembers this. We got a safety award through the Valley Industrial Association, and my speech was called "The Courage to Care." And there were senators there, mayors from towns. It was a pretty big deal that I didn't know about. But it was really about the business, the owners, the leadership having that courage to care with it. So that to me was my first kind of recognition around that, as the company was recognized.
I love it. What's really cool about the two of you, I mean, uniquely is, I mean, Paul, you both work with, business owners, especially part of the safety, peer groups or leaders within those teams. Paul, you work with some business owners in a coaching capacity as well. And then Darren, you're working with a lot of, Painters USA teams, and that buy-in that you mentioned, getting that compliance among those group of individuals, both are challenging. One, to get a business owner to buy in, but then also to get the team behind it to buy in. Paul, when you think about the business owners that you work with or have worked with within Summit or know within the group, what are the challenges or what are the perceptions that you think are created that don't allow folks to make this enough of a priority and actually make it alive?
Yeah, it's a good question, Molly. I think everyone would agree it's important, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's what gets in the way. And a business owner, especially when you're starting out, you wear so many hats, and you finish this and you got to jump to that role, and you got to do payroll, and you got to take care of this upset customer, and got to make sure the sales team is hitting there. There's all these things. So until something happens, it's like, well, yeah, we talk about safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And you think you're safe because nothing happens. What I don't want to happen is for someone to go through what we went through.
Right.
You may never know the accident. You won't know the accident you prevented, or the death you stopped, or the family that's not crushed because the accident didn't happen. You have to be deliberate about taking time, and you have to make safety a habit, I guess. And that's similar to a safety culture. It has to become a habit that people are just thinking that first. And it doesn't have to slow down production. It can complement production. And as far as, even if it slows it down a little bit, the money that would be saved, of course, lives are always important. Let's look at that first. But the money that would be saved when you have a major accident far outweigh the amount you might spend on safety, or the time you take to effectively have safety in the field.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of the time the fact of slowing down and spending the time doing the safety trainings, investing in classes or courses for your team, it feels like it's an expensive line item on the budget, and is this really necessary? But on the flip side, the fines that can happen. I mean, Darren, before we were recording, you told me a story about somebody you knew who completely lost their business because of an accident happened. I mean, there's a flip side to not making the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and this is why I love those safety peer groups so much, because it gives me the ability to connect to not only owners. 3 things I really stress in there is, 1, find your champion. As a business owner, find that one person that cares enough, or who wants to take it on, or, however you, and it could be anyone, to help you out for that. And then the other one is, what's been unique with the peer group is Paul and I have been able to bring in guest speakers, like from captives, and show business owners how, okay, it's going to cost you some money, but down the road, like if you can get qualified to get into a captive, or, reduce your work comp costs, it can save you, 6 figures easily annually on those kind of things. So trying to connect with the business owners by blending that data with human stories stories, I have found to really, try to key on their sense of responsibility, but then, make it personal throughout that.
Yeah, you get the art of the story, but like the science of the real data behind making these changes, and
Right.
that in itself, should be pretty convincing.
Yeah, Molly, I'm just thinking for an owner, if you're in traditional work comp, what would it cost if your EMR, your experience modification rate, went from 0.85 to 1.15? You could ask your agent that. So they could probably quantify that for you. When you get bigger, you can get in a captive, and there's a number of summit companies that are in a captive. We received a rebate this year of over $200,000 from a past year that had gone well for us. So, the money, again, you're right, Darren. It's always about the personal first, right? The employee, the family. But on the other side of it is the business side, and there's a huge savings if you do that right.
Darren, do you ever find it challenging to implement policies? I mean, in the production work that you see, with being out and visiting job sites. I mean, you guys work on big job sites all across the country, and not only do you have Painters USA safety standards, but then you're also needing to comply with the manufacturer safety standards, which are also, I would imagine, in many cases, pretty intense. Do you face challenges on a regular basis of like making it stick, or what has worked for you guys?
So implementing safety policies is probably the toughest part. And I've been through the Nolan training. Back in the day, I went through the field supervisor training or whatever it was called. And, it was really production focused, and this, many square feet and this many window frames, or however it went. But then really building into that, starting the day off right. What's the first thing you do? Talk through it. Make sure, we switched from doing like a safety daily toolbox talk to a JSA. And I think that's where it really started clicking. So a job safety analysis. So each day our crews talk about, okay, what tasks are we doing today? And then what's the risk to each one of those tasks? And they take 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the longest, for a big job. But then it kind of raises everybody's awareness around that and builds that crew camaraderie. I think once you build a crew and have that camaraderie together, they'll all buy into it again.
Yeah.
But it's still, that's probably one of the most difficult things we have out there. Now I am seeing a shift. So, I'm old school, Paul's old school. Back in the day, if you got hurt you cut your finger off, you threw some duct tape on it and went back to work, right?
Yeah.
But with these younger generations coming in, safety has been more part of their entire life, right? Where that old school tough guy construction thinking maybe is starting to phase out. And I'm seeing these, 20 somethings, early 30 somethings really wanting safety, wanting to protect themselves. And I see it in my OSHA 10 classes and our advanced safety academies. They really want that knowledge and how do I protect myself, and again those human stories about everything. I've seen a shift over the last couple of years in that. So
I mean, ultimately that's what we want to see, right? I mean,
yeah,
if the owner can see the importance of it, and then the production teams are wanting it, that alone helps to start building that safety culture foundation. That in itself is what is making it actually alive and not just on the shelf.
Yeah. And I think we were talking before the podcast. You asked me if I'm always on the road. I do about 100,000 miles a year, and I don't have to, but I want to. I want to be there with the guys. So this job I'm on right now in Iowa, it's 1.7 million, I think. So I've got a huge crew, a lot of people. It's for a client that their safety standards are, way out there. Like you have to fill out a permit to bring out a knife to open a box. So making the guys understand that, the crews understand that, and focus on it. Hey, here's why, and then here's how, and I'm going to be right alongside of you, and we'll work through it for a few days and make sure everybody understands it.
I love that. Practicing some servant leadership there, kind of being on site and learning it and understanding it and applying it with them that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes sense. It's simple things like the JSA, the job safety analysis. That's what you mentioned, right?
Correct.
It's doing those things every day, not missing a beat. Like we don't not do this. This is part of the routine of the day. This is how we keep it going. And there's a lot of tools out there now to help it make it so much easier. This is not, paper checklist anymore, but if that's where you got to start, fine. But there's a lot of great platforms that can help you make this happen quickly, analyze where safety needs to be maybe more prioritized. Let's talk about the safety certification here at Nolan Consulting Group. We started doing this, gosh, I don't know, Paul, but maybe 2013 is when the program first kind of started. I
Yeah,
remember
there was
being in
yep,
it with in its infancy of like,
right.
and it's now it's 3 levels. I mean, it really has become something so much bigger, which is fantastic. I mean, you two are both in the safety council and are a big part of designing this safety certification program. What was the vision for you both? And if you have different perspectives around having different levels a part of it.
Again, for a business, and we're all, in a sense, small businesses, you wear so many hats. So how do you be deliberate about safety? How do you make sure it's happening even when you're not looking, get it happening all the time? But there's a lot there, right? So you don't want to overwhelm somebody, but there's steps into it. Change is the hardest thing a company can go through. People don't
Yeah.
like change, so you've got to manage that change. And so we introduce things slowly, one at a time. In level one, there's, the daily safety audits. That's a big step. Every crew doing an audit on every job every day. That's a big step. And then there's other things around that. To me, that's the biggest component of level one is getting that habit going in the field. Okay, we need to look at our job every day, right? The key here is getting your field culture bought in, and then it builds from there. Level two, we add more things, and level three, we add more. But yeah, just getting those habits created.
Yeah. So
Darren.
as Paul said, for me, because we built our, we brought in a consultant, but it was really us building it from scratch. Some outside help, but then making it our own. So for me, it was a clear progressive pathway for the Nolan businesses to build and sustain, and I'm going to use Paul's word, a world-class safety program. And when we started all this and, kind of built level 1, 2, and 3, I was like, what struggles did I have? Where did I need the help? And another big shift I had a few years ago was almost how do you protect the business from a safety standpoint? And the best way to do that isn't protect the employee, but we always focus on the employee, but a lot of times we weren't focused on the business. And 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I really started focusing on protecting the business too, from not only compliance, but, if an injury does happen and there's litigation and anything like that, what are they going to look at and what questions are they going to ask? So especially level 1, if you remember this with those, it was really protecting the business through the employees, and level 2 and 3 build upon that. So it's not only protecting the employee and compliance wise, but how do you build this program out? And, some things have happened, with a company where OSHA did show up to do a routine compliance out there, and they had a lot of these things in place because of the certification levels and, smoked it, and it was a state run OSHA, which are a lot more critical than federal OSHA. So it's good to hear those things. And I think for me, being able to help those businesses, Jen and Dee and Catherine will email or text me all the time. Hey, working with a customer, they have this question. And, I'm more than happy to reach out to them or talk to them or help them. I've sent, policies or whatever they might need. As like, here, I've got it. You don't have to start from scratch. Use this. So it's been really, really fun. And to see that grow, really Paul pushing this. I remember him pushing on Brian and Kevin, hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. And seeing it, come to something that's living with Nolan.
Definitely the champion for safety within Nolan Consulting Group, and you're in lockstep with him, and like that's huge for us to have passionate people in this space who can help other companies kind of go into this when it can feel daunting. It can, what should a safety program look like? So that's a big part of why this is now in place, looking to provide the resources, help people establish, getting their policies in place, not feel like they have to start from scratch. I also look at both of you in the fact that, you giving, Darren, you responding to somebody who has a question, or Paul, you talking to a business owner, the like ripple effect of that one answer or that share is like the immediate short-term effect is that you helped them with a problem. But then the long-term effect is that you helped them get a program in place that could be, preventing accidents from occurring. That's just a cool ripple effect.
Yeah, it truly is.
And you know what, Darren he's accessible, and just an expert in safety. And if he doesn't know the answer, he'll find a resource for you. So I know people have called him, and he takes those, and we're happy that he does. And I would say, Molly, such a key to success. Who's going to own safety at your company?
Yeah.
Someone has to own it, right? The resources that Summit put together to help people get through the safety certification are excellent. The people around that to give advice are excellent. And I think, of course, I'm biased, but the safety peer group, you're making sure every month someone has to, show up at a peer group and be responsible for safety, and we track metrics, and, we help them build that culture at their company. So I think the Nolan Consulting has made it, I'm not saying it's ever easy, but it's put all the resources out there and you can get it done.
We're trying. And it's really nice to see there's definitely buy-in from clients in this, which is great. People are embracing it, they're working it, they're celebrating achieving it, which is fantastic. I mean, it's great to hear stories of an OSHA audit happening. I did a whole podcast on it, and they did pass with flying colors, and it's because they were organized with their safety program in place and then practiced it and kept it alive.
Right.
That's the part that always seems maybe to drip. In the level 2 part of the certification, something that's pretty neat is an audit component of this. So having a professional, comprehensive site or a safety site audit. We're working with a professional partner to help do this. How does this change the game?
Well, it's where the rubber meets the road, right? So you could get inspected by OSHA too. So wouldn't you rather be inspected by, a summit inspector first and make sure everything's up to, that extra set of eyes is so helpful. They may see something you don't. They'll give you good feedback. And if you come up short in an area, everyone's here to help you shore that up and get it fixed and be good at that. But I think that little bit of accountability, having that auditor come out on a regular basis, is going to help keep you in top shape safety-wise. Darren, you might have some thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I think back, and I haven't been a lot involved in the Nolan business coaching part of it, but the one thing that I always hear is, the numbers that you track, you get better at, right? So this is giving you that data for a baseline to grow. And then, most members that come into the peer group, especially most of the time, it's not the owners, it's somebody, operations manager or HR manager or something like that. They don't know what TRIRs are, or EMRs, and really how it can affect their business. And Molly, you talked about that ripple effect. These audits can help these businesses to grow. And if they start getting into the commercial or even the industrial spaces, those are standard questions on every pre-qualification we have to do business, right? So they ask, do you have a employee certification? Do you, what is your TRIR? What is your EMR? Do you have a return to work program? Those are standard on every pre-qualification we have to do. And a lot of times, if there's a lot of no's, you're not on that bid list, right?
Right.
So you talk about that ripple effect, and maybe they're a residential painter now and they're new, but where do they want to be in 10 years? So for them, if they develop, I think levels 1, 2, and 3, they could go start competing in those commercial and industrial spaces. And I think have a, really good safety program in place to match with those qualifications.
It's such a good point, because it's harder to make change. Change management's harder the bigger you are and the quicker that you're scaling. So to be identifying policies or practices now that are going to help you when you are that size, when you've decided to begin, working in that new division of work. It's a lot harder to do that when you're trying to start a new division, to think about the safety component versus, making it a hobby now, making it just a practice that it's the way the company operates. It's part of the identity of the business.
Absolutely.
Do you guys see, of the level 2, there's things like the return to work program and equipment inspection, job safety inspections, a lot of, known, practices that shouldn't feel like that complicated. Like a return to work program shouldn't feel that complicated, but how thorough is your return to work program? Do you think that there's any one of these that a business trying to complete will find most challenging to implement, or more than another?
To implement?
Yeah, like, is getting a proper return to work program harder to implement than having a safety, a training syllabus? So is there one of these items within level 2 that feels like companies are going to have to work a little bit harder to make sure that they are doing it correctly?
Paul, you want to go? I've got one.
Maybe I'll steal your thunder, but that stop work authority, that's yours too. It's a cultural piece.
Yep.
So stop work authority, anyone in the company can stop a job if they don't don't feel safe or they see something that's not safe. And I think people might be afraid to say something because all the guys will get down on me or the crew will get mad or, I'm going to slow down production. But you need to make that a safe space, welcome it, and appreciate that they stepped forward and said something, right? Because if they don't feel safe, they could make a mistake, or if they see something. And, in the trades, it's still sort of a macho world. Oh, I can't say that. They'll make fun of, well, if you can get there where people feel comfortable to stop a job because they don't feel safe, you'll really know that your culture has taken effect in the field, that safety culture that you want. And Darren, I'll let you add on to that.
Yeah, that's, it seems like an easy thing, but getting the buy-in on that across the board was the hardest for us. But when you see it come to life and then, celebrate it. So we celebrate that in every monthly meeting. How many stop work authorities? Who did this? What? And, we're not talking about shutting the job down for a day. We're talking about, hey, let's stop. Let's think about it. Let's refocus and, move forward. And then we'll put out a safety memo on it on our platform. Hey, this happened today. We don't mention names. We don't mention jobs. I always tell people, if you hear something bad that happens to someone in California, you're like, oh, that's sad. But if you hear something that happened to, John, and everybody knows John,
Yep.
it has a much greater impact. So I think that's they're going to pay attention to it more if they know it happened within the company. And I think that's where it really started getting some traction through it.
Have you ever had new hires who are coming on job sites, have not worked with Painters USA before, and have not had experience in other organizations where that stop work authority was part of the culture? And have they been kind of shocked by it? Or do you see this now within the type of work that you do? This is standard in the industry.
So new hires are shocked most of the time. So Paul, I'll never forget this. When we were designing the new t-shirts for the field a few years ago, we were going to have like stop work authority. It's going to be like a little one on the arm here, maybe over. Paul had it like a Superman size stop work authority put on the chest that everybody's going to see. And I was like, yes, that's how it should be. But then now I would say 80% of our clients, it's a requirement. Does your company have a stop work authority program? And when we're sitting in these job site safety meetings to work on these, in these facilities or in these construction sites, that's one of the first things they lead with. We are a stop work authority site. So in commercial and industrial worlds, it's kind of standard practice now.
I love that. It really does just speak so much to the culture. And again, I totally agree with you. That's most definitely going to be the hardest one to implement. Does it start with leaders? Is it a foreman who does it first and begins to set the example? Because I can imagine the apprentice or someone who's a newer hire is probably not, they're going to feel like there's consequences to doing that. Or is this not safe enough to do a stop work on? Like, how do you set that precedence?
You don't worry about it. Even if they say it and maybe they didn't really need to, you still have to celebrate it. Thank you. Maybe the owner gives them a phone call. Hey, thank you for bringing that concern up, because you don't want them second guessing. Should I say something or should I not?
Yeah.
If they've any inkling of a feeling that, just say it, just get it out there. And I don't want, this applies equally to residential as commercial as industrial. It's like, driving, most accidents happen within 5 feet from home.
Yep.
Well, in safety, I think most accidents happen like 6 feet or below. You don't have to be up, 100 feet or be in this really crazy industrial job. A lot of residentially, these things can happen too. So I think this is apply this to every type of work that the company,
most fall protection, which is, slips, trips, falls, the number one injury out there, happened 6 feet and below.
It's crazy.
And it's usually a comfort level. If I'm up, 4 feet, I can't get hurt. And that's where I've seen in my 30 years in construction, the most devastating accidents have all happened at 6 feet and below. Most of them on 4-foot ladders or just the little 2-foot step ladders. We outlawed them. I don't know, probably 10 years ago, just because we were getting, they weren't big injuries, but they were injuries, twisted knees, twisted ankles, little things like that. And we're like, you can do the same thing on a 4-foot. So,
it's
chose to get rid of them.
Funny, at home, I have just a little, like, well, I don't know, 1 foot, 1.5 foot little stool that I use in my kitchen to like reach up for things. And I very much now where I'm putting that, I'm very aware. I'm more afraid to get on that little stool than I am to climb on my countertop, which is probably way less safe. And maybe it's just been stories that I have heard, but I really try to like pause before I just jump on there and grab something, because it's that comfort of routine things you're just doing around your house or on the job site that you think you do every day. And so you don't take that moment to pause and realize the hazard potential that exists, as minute as it could actually be.
Absolutely.
One more thing about the safety peer groups, that because you each run a group. You got the originals, Paul, the usual suspects. Did I get that name right? So
Yep.
you're both working with operations managers or HR managers who are either, have implemented their safety program, hit level 1, or are working towards it and getting that feedback and that guidance. Has there been any rewarding experiences, outside of, that one recent story of OSHA state coming in? Any other stories or moments where that have been rewarding, just to see that the work of these folks, that are what they're doing, is bringing impact to their businesses?
For me, I take the new people who aren't certified yet. I usually take the new people in safety. And number one, just seeing them grow and experience, change and get certified in level 1. And then typically that's a time when they might move over to Darren's group, right? But just see, because it is a little overwhelming, just seeing the people grow, and they're a little daunted at first. And by the time they step into Darren's group, they've created these great safety habits, and you're hearing good stories from the field. So just seeing them step into that journey, of safety and be successful is what's felt good to me.
So for me, I've started challenging the members of my group to bring something and present that changed their company, and the way they worked. And probably the biggest one was with New Life, and their HR manager. She presented on the AI technology and how they have combined Site Docs and Got Safety and a couple other platforms to work together, and how it made them more efficient, where she was having to chase the documentation and email and text and where is it? And now it's all there. And it was two things. One, she made the work process and the flow better, and she made it easier and more understandable. And it reduced the time she spent chasing, plus the time, the crew leaders or foremen spent doing those tasks or audits or jobs or training or whatever it was. And she took it to a completely different level that inspired me to start looking into, more of the AI platforms to it. So that was probably the big one with me on that, because I've started using AI to help me with some of the safety stuff, and just to streamline it and make it more efficient, to reduce, because that's the biggest thing. It takes too long, right?
Yeah.
That we always hear. So how do I get that? I say, how do I get those words out of their mouths? So it's probably, that was the biggest one for me.
That's so cool. Because then, just in that moment, her sharing that, it's got you thinking, it's probably got the other members of the peer group thinking. That is best practice sharing, like in its, in its clearest moment, is like a new way to do something. This is working, being able to talk about it, and then each of you going and doing that in your own way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we wrap up here, any words of wisdom, or just, words of determination that you would want to share with listeners on here, who just, they know that what they're hearing, what you guys are saying, they know it's important, they know it's right, but they're just kind of overwhelmed with, it's just, how do I start, or where do I begin?
Well, beginning's easy. I think you just get into a peer group. And I think a peer group is 175 a month, and talk about something paying back tenfold or 100-fold, when you do it right. And then deciding who's going to own this. And like Darren said, what you measure gets better, right? So
Yeah.
we'll help you put metrics in place so you can measure your results. And once you get in, you just, level 1, level 2, level 3. Boy, if you're going through that, you're going to be a much, much safer company at the end of the day. So I just make that investment. I think is the key part. And if you're not in the peer group yourself, if you're an owner, support that person, and it'll pay off dividends.
Yeah, I support that 100%. I think, Paul, that's the best steps for it. But I'm going to go back to find your champion. And the uniqueness that I've seen within my peer group is, some of these companies have some of their older field supervisors, or, crew leads, or, whatever they call them. And maybe some of these gentlemen are like me and gaining some age, and, might see this as a path where, hey, I can still be in the field, but, maybe I don't have to be climbing ladders every day, or doing something like that, because I couldn't imagine ever not being in the field.
Yeah.
But at some point, you just wear out. So this, it's that connection. I've seen 2, maybe 3 companies where that's really starting to play out, and those champions are just kind of organically becoming part of that, and staying with the company. But maybe just like I did operations and safety, side by side for years, and giving those opportunities to help the business grow and help, so the owner can take that hat and pass it off to somebody else. So I'd say, find your champion. I should get
I love
t-shirts
it.
that made that.
Yeah. That would be great on the back of your t-shirt. Find your champion. Stop work
Right.
authority on the front, and then find your champion on the back. Yeah, you're absolutely right. To the clients of ours who are listening, those involved in the Summit member group, get yourself in a peer group or somebody from your champion in the peer group. There are resources that we can provide within kind of safety criteria and materials. We've got the program in place. We've got the play-by-play. It's just the companies need to implement it. If you are not a client, we'd love to work with you, but we do have safety information on our website. We have a whole page about the safety certification, so you can kind of take a look and see what we deem important as part of the Nolan Consulting Group safety certification program. Thank you both for being here. I greatly appreciate your time, sharing your wisdom,
Absolutely.
and just the dedication you guys kind of keep pushing forward on the safety front. It's you two are carrying it. As long as we also have some other great members, other folks who are part of the Safety Council and help represent other industries from large equipment and landscapers. So we appreciate those folks as well, because it's a team effort to really kind of bring this ball forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
We
This
like
has
to
been great.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for the support from the Nolan Consulting Group to make this safety program come alive. It really is best in class for companies that follow through, and that's so appreciated, Molly. Thank you.
Well, I only have a small part in it. It's Catherine and Brian and Dee and Jen Ware from the team who really are the ones kind of grinding and in the weeds every day on it. So we will applaud those folks. But I would love to have you guys both back in the future, especially as we are getting level 2 in play with a lot of folks who are ready to achieve it. I think there'll be some lessons learned, some interesting stories that kind of come from it. So until next time, let's say.
All right.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.